Media Leaks.
Hey, it's your girl KiaSmithWrites, and I want you to stay in tune with Media Leaks. And while you at it, go ahead, log on to my website at KiaSmithWrites.com. Get this amazing book here, Write Yourself a Love Letter Challenge, a part journal, part manifesto on becoming your best self.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to another wonderful edition of Media Leaks Mic'd Up. We are live with the one and only Kia Smith of Write Yourself a Love Letter Challenge.
Yes.
Huge fan of your work. Can't wait to see what's coming from you next. First question I'm going to dive in is, what made you choose the wording of your title?
The wording of my title.
Super wavy.
So the wording of my title, Write Yourself a Love Letter Challenge, it kind of takes me back to the Oregon story, which is 5 years ago now, since we are in 2021. I was 22 years old, and for a number of years before that, between like the ages of 18 to 21, I was just struggling a lot. Like, I was struggling mentally, I was struggling emotionally, psychologically, academically, because I was in college. But that particular summer, the summer of 2016, I was taking a class, and the class was on social media, and we had to basically create campaigns and like analyze the way that people interacted with social media. And that was something that I was low-key interested in, but before that class, I didn't know anything about like just really studying the ways that people interact with social media was like a really huge thing. Okay. So the assignment was create a campaign. Now, prior to that, I had been blogging for 4 years. I started off as a blogger. Started off blogging in 2012. And so in 2016, that was 4 years by then. Wow. So I knew I wanted to incorporate my blog in some type of way. And I transitioned from being a hip hop blogger who went by Queen K. Wow. So to just like your personal development, personal development. I blogged a lot about dating and relationships. I gave my opinions on different things happening in media and pop culture. And so I knew that I wanted to talk about something real with this campaign. So I was doing some research, and around that time, Facebook was like super duper popular, right? Thanks. And around that time on Facebook, it was all these different challenges going around. Like, I saw things like the real hair challenge, the no makeup challenge, just different things like that people were participating in. But I didn't see anything about just like self-love and, just dating and relationships. And so I knew I wanted to incorporate writing because I think journaling is very, very therapeutic. And so I was like, okay, I'm going to create something called Write Yourself a Love Letter Challenge. But I had no idea back then about the irony of it, because the challenge was simple. You just had to post a picture of yourself and write a love letter from you to you. And it sounds extremely simple, but the challenge, the irony comes in that it's really hard for people to talk about nice things about themselves. It's hard for people to affirm themselves. It is hard for people to even to name out loud the things that they love about themselves. So from there, Write Yourself a Love Letter Challenge was born, and then transitioned, and now we have this book.
That's crazy. Like, just the journey, the changes, your willingness just to adapt is crazy to me. Who and what inspired you to pursue writing? You said just you didn't see people, or you didn't think people were good at expressing self-love about themselves, finding something that they love about themselves. Is this what catapulted you into
So I've always been a writer. I literally have always been a writer. I was that kid which is interesting because when I first started going to school, like as a 5-year-old, I struggled with reading.
Wow.
Struggled really hard with like reading and like comprehension and just different things like that. And ended up switching from a private school to a public school in my neighborhood. And had a teacher, and one day it just clicked for me. I think it was because I've always been a very determined child, and a child that kind of like does what she wants to do. And I think at the private school, I was just really expected to kind of like follow rules, and I was never really much of a rule follower. I wasn't a rule breaker. Like, I wasn't very adamant about being a rule breaker, but I kind of like followed the beat of my own drum. So first grade rolled around, and I fell in love with reading. And then in second grade, I remember filling up a notebook with like a story, and like that kind of just that started everything, because I was the kid who was filling up notebooks with different short stories and like letting my friends read them. And between like 3rd through 8th grade, that was something I did. And then in 9th grade, I got involved with the after-school program called True Star Magazine, and they showed us how to put a magazine together from top to bottom, and then they had other teams as well. So I was, at 15, I was getting published, interviewing people and getting published in a magazine, and then I went off to college. But I've always been a writer. Like, writing has always been my saving grace. And then I grew up an only child too, so it was kind of, reading and writing was like kind of my escape from the outside world, and like just all these different things that were going on around me. And writing was how I dealt with a lot of different changes that I experienced in life. Writing was that salvation, that saving grace. And then journaling came to play. Well, I was always a person who kind of like wrote down her feelings. I had diaries growing up, wrote about my day. So like really practicing mental wellness activities without knowing that was what I was doing until I got older and started going to therapy and just different things like that. And it was just like, oh, well, these are things that I've already been doing. I just have to be like, more intentional about it. So I think that's why I wanted to incorporate, even in this book, even just get people in the practice of being able to write positive things about themselves, think positive things about themselves, because when you read something over and over, or you hear something over and over, your mind begins to believe it. So,
Did you foresee the success that this would have?
No. Well, I'm gonna put it to you like this. I always knew I was gonna be an author. Like, that's something that was, being an author is something that I always wanted to do. And I always knew I would do it. I just never had like a certain age that I would do it. It took me 2 years to write this. The idea of this, I always knew I wanted to write a book, but never really knew what my topic would be. I didn't have that planned out. I just knew at some point in my life I was going to be an author of 3 books, and they're going to be on the New York Times bestsellers list. And essentially, I'm going to write books for the rest of my life. I know at least 3 of my books are going to be on the bestsellers list of the New York Times, but I'm going to write books until I die, essentially. But I did not foresee that as a self-published author, I would sell so many copies. The support, I am very surprised. I'm surprised, but I'm not surprised at the support, because I would say I'm not surprised because I have a really great network of just like people that I know, people that I don't know. I've built my reputation up for being a writer, being a blogger. People look forward to the things that I have to say. People enjoy.
Feel good, don't
It does. Like they enjoy what I have to say and like my thoughts, and I have lively conversations with people, all different people, online, offline, in real life, all the time. So it's not surprising that these people are like genuinely proud of me. And then even my close friends and family members and just people that I grew up with, went to college with, high school with, super proud of me. Super, like, it's genuine. And like the love that I pour out to people, it gets reciprocated back to me. But I'm very surprised and like really excited. Like, wow, like people, it's really this amount of people like
That's
really buying. It's one thing to put out something. Like, you really have to put yourself out there. Like, you have to push yourself. Like, people be like, oh, well, how did you write a book? I put myself out there. Like, how are you pushing this book? I put myself out there. Like if you're gonna be a writer and have a website and be a blogger, you cannot be afraid to share your work.
That's right.
With any profession though. Like if you make beats, you can't be like, oh, I'm a beat maker, but like never let anybody hear something. If you an artist, you can't keep them songs to yourself. You have to put yourself out there. So I put myself out there, and I'm just like really surprised. I'm like, okay. But I set a personal goal for myself to even sell a number of books, and like I'm halfway there. So it's like I could do this.
Look at
you
God.
know?
Like,
yeah.
Manifestation is real.
Absolutely.
You said something that really stuck out to me. You said human beings have a hard time finding something positive to say about themselves. Why do you think this is so hard?
Trauma. So a lot of us, a lot of people grow up with childhood trauma. Sometimes there is no rule book to parenting.
This is facts.
And a lot of our parents, did not know what they were doing. And generational curses are absolutely real.
Yes.
And as a result, and then depending on what environment like you may have grown up in, whether it was an urban environment, whether you grew up in a 2-parent home, every family has like their skeletons and just different things that they deal with. Yeah. And so as children, a lot of the ways that we perform as adults is kind of based on what we saw or didn't see or heard or did not hear in childhood. And when you don't heal that childhood trauma, it really impacts like your self-esteem, your self-worth, how you treat others, how you treat yourself. So a lot of people didn't grow up being affirmed and even knowing like what affirmations are and like thinking or positive self-talk or just different things like that. A lot of black people don't believe in therapy.
That's huge. You just said something huge.
And we need help, and like we need help.
Yeah.
You know, we need, even if you feel like there's nothing quote unquote wrong with you, just it's okay to like talk to somebody.
That's true.
You know, it's literally okay to talk to somebody and just sort your feelings out. Even if you feel like, oh, there's nothing like detrimental going on in my life, go to therapy at least once. Like I encourage every black person to go to therapy at least once in their life. It's very beneficial. But a lot of the reasons why it's very hard for us to think positive things about ourselves and say positive things about ourselves is that the trauma is trauma, and some people are battling low self-esteem. Some people just don't have a high sense of self-worth, and they have to learn how to do it. And self-love is a practice, and so you practice it daily, all the time. It's not something you do one time and that's it.
You have an aura about yourself, and everything from being in person and even some of your work I done seen online, even with reading this piece of work, you come from a very energetic place of self-adoration. And a lot of people can't even fathom how to tap into this. Like, what would you tell someone growing up, or what would you tell a smaller version of you?
Ooh, a smaller version of me. Well, I wasn't always this person. You know, I was always this person, but I wasn't always aware that I was this person, if that makes sense. Yeah. So I always had the gifts. I always had the talent, but I wasn't aware of myself. But at the same time, I've always been a very self-aware person and very like intuitive. So I would tell a smaller version of me, get confident in yourself and learn how to trust yourself, because you don't need the outward validation.
That's real.
You don't need that outward validation, because you were valid when you were created. You know? And that's a quote from this artist named Kari Fo. She said, you know, she was valid when she came. You don't need that outward validation. Like, you was valid when you entered into this world, when you were created in your mother's womb. Like,
Yeah.
God knew who we were before. That's a scripture too. Like, God knew who we were before, like, our moms knew who. I'm paraphrasing, but before our moms knew who we were, who, you know, before we even became on this earth, like, everything that we are, it was already created and it was written. So I was just telling little me, like 5-year-old me, like, continue to tap into your gifts.
Yeah,
continue
definitely.
to like trust in yourself, find your way.
Yeah.
You don't have to doubt yourself because you raw. Like,
because
you raw, like you raw, like. And I've always literally, I had a real epiphany about a month ago, and I was like, wow, I've literally always been this person, and I had no idea.
Thanks.
Like, I had no idea, but I was literally always this person. And so those are the things I would tell my younger self. And you have to grow because, like I said, I wasn't always this confident, but I've always been passionate about what I do. Like, writing makes me so happy. If I had to name some things that make me happy, writing is number one at the top of the list.
Okay. So. 2 particular chapters in your book that stick out the most to me.
Okay.
First, I want to say, in terms of Black people in therapy, I myself have a therapist.
I do too. I had a therapy session tomorrow.
I felt kind of weird at first, but to get your thoughts out and express yourself and say what's on your mind is like a very relieving type of feeling. So.
And especially when they don't judge you, like they don't know you.
No,
like,
they don't.
You can have good friends, a good family you can confide in,
But they judge.
but they're gonna judge internally. You know, we say we don't judge, but we definitely do.
Yeah.
But this therapist, they probably judge too, but like it's their job, and like they give you like really great coping mechanism skills and suggestions and recommendations to enhance your life. I love therapy. I'm so pro therapy.
So two particular chapters that stuck out that I'm going to talk about. First is healing. The second is accountability. And I think I want to start with accountability.
Okay, that was a hard chapter. I ain't gonna lie to you, that was a hard chapter to write.
That was a dope chapter to read.
Thank you.
What is being accountable for you and for the things you put yourself in and through? What encompasses being accountable?
I think what encompasses being accountable is being able to honor your boundaries.
That's right.
If you know that once you become aware, like, okay, these routines and habits in my life are not working and I need to change it, you then set a boundary that makes sure you're not reverting back to your old self. And you have to honor your boundaries by being able to trust yourself enough to know that even if this decision hurts or doesn't feel good or whatever the case may be, you're trusting in yourself enough to know that it's okay if it hurts. I'm making the right decision. So being able to honor your boundaries for sure is a way to hold yourself accountable, because if you're not honoring your boundaries, if you being wishy-washy with self, you're going to create the same chaos. The same chaos that is introduced in your life is going to continue, and it's going to continue to be a cycle. So you honor a great way to hold yourself accountable is honoring your boundaries and being able to then break that cycle of chaos.
It's crazy you say boundaries. This is something I bullet pointed. Don't need notes or none of that. Having boundaries and having standards, how important is this?
It's very important because you don't. First of all, without boundaries and standards, you introduce a lot of different energies and a lot of different disrespect.
That's facts.
Into your life. A lack of boundaries equals a lack of disrespect to me. Because when you don't have boundaries, you often tend to overgive. You often tend to let people walk all over you.
That's facts.
You tend to minimize like your own voice and your own thoughts and feelings to please and appease other people.
It's real.
So it's super important to have boundaries and standards, because and then also if you don't have standards, you're just settling for whatever comes your way because you perhaps don't want to be lonely. You want to say that you have something, and or you want to feel something, so you just settle for whatever it is out there, and that's not okay.
Next,
whether you're a man or a woman.
This is facts. Next thing I want to talk about is healing. Now, this isn't an overnight process
at all,
by no stretch of the imagination. I feel like it kind of goes as you go. What would you say healing is about? And to not put a time limit on this type of thing, what would you say?
I feel like healing is a never-ending process, and
Facts.
it's a never-ending process. And like you said, it goes as you go. It helps you evolve. It's being able to acknowledge things that may have happened in the past, but they don't have like a rainy cloud over you, and you're not using what happened in the past as like an excuse to like not be better, not grow from that, not learn certain lessons. Healing saves you, because if you are constantly triggered, I think you are allowing certain people and things and situations to have power over you. And in a way, healing, choosing to actively heal, is in a way taking your power back from whatever may have hurt you in the past. So,
okay. Where can fans who want to find your work, where can they go to look for it and find it? Where can they buy it? Where can they?
So you can find me on everything at KiaSmithWrites. My website is KiaSmithWrites.com. My book is also available on Amazon, but I always stress, 100% ownership. Buy from my website. You get a cute little note from me. I sign my books personally when you buy from my website. It comes in a branded bag with my logo on it and just different things like that. And that's how you can find me, and that's how you can support me. And I always appreciate new supporters, old supporters, future supporters. So that's how you tap in. You buy the work, you buy the book.
Did this come from experience? Like when you were like, this is crazy, but like when you experienced the things you did, and like you put all these things together, and it, like I said, manifestation is real. How big was experience putting this project together?
100%. Literally 100%. Because the funny part about it, when I started this challenge, I myself was struggling with self-love. Like when I say between the ages of 18 to 22,
I don't see it.
I was really, by the grace of God. Thank you. You know how they say you don't look like what you've been through?
Oh man,
that's dead ass me, But I was really struggling. Like I was struggling. I would even go as far as to say I was depressed, but extremely high functioning. Like I was still able to, go out and smile and just, kick it and just different things like that, and live my work and live my life. But on the inside, I was a very, very broken person. And what reminded me of that was I was going through some old journals that I had picked up from my mom's house. Like, because when I moved back home from college, I stayed with her for a slight second, or had my stuff over there. And so recently over the holidays, I picked up my old stuff and the rest of my old stuff, and I'm in my apartment one night and I'm reading. I had to stop reading these journals because I'm just like, whoa.
Wait, what's going on?
Because it's like I had literally put that side of me, or like that version of me, to. So
being vulnerable is not always the easiest thing, and I'm just saying that as I'm a man and I'm a human being.
Yeah,
and, like it's tough sometimes.
Yeah, men don't even really get the space to be vulnerable, so it's super hard.
I get it. What would you advise a gentleman like myself as far as being vulnerable and opening up?
Don't be afraid to go against the grain. Talk to a therapist. Like, Black men and mental health is also very, very important to me because
Facts.
We suffer. Y'all suffer, you know, because not only is it patriarchy telling y'all like, well, this is like white supremacist patriarchal thinking, right? Whereas, oh, the only emotion that is valid for you to show would be anger, or lust. We don't think about lust as an emotion, but it is. So anger and lust, those are the two things you can only be, or violence. Violence is an emotion as well. Or jealousy, that's acceptable when it comes to, manhood, right? But I think more Black men need to get away from the white supremacist patriarchal thinking and like really just redefine manhood for yourself. So that is being in touch with your emotions. That is, not telling your sons like it's not okay to cry. It is, being a safe space, for your fellow friend or your fellow brother. Telling them like, yeah, bro, like you could vent. It's okay. I'm not gonna call you a bitch. I'm not gonna call you a pussy. I'm not gonna, say, all these demeaning things just because you are a person that is in touch with your full range of emotions. I think more Black men need to advocate for each other to go to therapy. And I'm seeing a lot of it nowadays, but it could definitely be a big push for a lot more because a lot of times some men, they depend on the women that they are dating to be their therapists or their rehab houses. And it's just like, well, Black women go through certain things and trials and tribulations as well. Everybody needs to go to therapy.
Everybody.
Family therapy. Family therapy needs to be a thing. But even if you don't have access to those resources or you're just not quite ready yet, start with self-reflection. Start doing that shadow work. And shadow work is essentially asking yourself the hard questions so you could get to know you and become your best self. So start asking yourself, like, man, why do I act the way that I do? What things have I seen in childhood? What examples of love and just different things have I seen? What is normal? What's not normal?
What's normal? What's not?
Yeah.
It's real.
So, you can do a lot of therapy work. You don't really have to go talk to somebody because a lot of the answers that you're already searching for, they're within, but you have to learn how to like turn inward and tap in.
It starts with you.
And it starts with you, for sure. So that's what I would advise.
This book has been, I say, in just the past year, 2020, I mean, you got the time to sit down. You definitely have to be with the quarantine and everything. You have the time to, what did you say, reflection. This book has been eye-opening, and it was to the point where, like, I'm taking breaks at work to read it. So I'm coming home and, like, I'm getting her ready for bed. I might pop out my little demos and I'm reading, So. I just want to say thank you for being you.
No, thank you.
Thank you for creating, and like I said on the way in, I'm a huge fan. I don't mean fan out and everything, but please keep doing what you're doing. What can we expect next?
So what you can expect next is hopefully, with this book, I also turned it into an actual workshop, a self-love workshop that I host every March. So this year will be the 4th one. And so you can expect to see my 4th annual Write Yourself a Love Letter Challenge self-love workshop. And we have a great time. I ask the audience questions about just dating and relationships and trauma and healing and accountability and self-love. And we break it down together. We have food, we have drinks, I have goodie bags that I give out to people. So you'll see that. You're gonna see me getting booked somewhere, doing a college tour. I'm just gonna put it out there, like, I'm gonna do a college tour.
Speaking life.
And then you can expect the second book in June of 2021. But this one is actually going to be a fiction book. So I'm going to bring my fiction dreams to life, but it still follows the same themes of self-love and learning how to get out of toxic relationships and healing and, just realizing who you are and how to become your best self. So a lot of the things that I write about kind of follow the same themes. And that's because art imitates life, or life imitates art.
That's real.
So it's like, whatever I'm writing, I want people to learn something from it. I want them to be able to enjoy it. So in June of 2021, you can expect my second book, Love Rehab. And it's a great story.
Love Rehab. Looking forward to it.
Yeah, it's a great story. And I wrote that book when I was 15.
Wow.
So it's very interesting. Like I said, I was always who I was. I just wasn't aware at that moment. But now that I am aware, I'm going to make sure that I bring out the sides of me that I've always kept hidden and protected and wasn't so sure about. Because if 2020 didn't teach me anything, it taught me do what you want to do. Come on. Because you can do it.
Because you can.
It's like nothing is stopping you. Like, you literally can do whatever it is that you want to do. So that's basically the type of time that I'm on and what we can look forward to.
Where can the fans, last but not least, find you on social media? Let them know.
KiaSmithWrites on everything. Twitter is my home. Instagram, Facebook. Add me, follow me, engage in my content, support me.
Let's go.
I'm appreciative of all the support. Like, for real. Like, it's very surreal to just, like, dang, it's like people really like,
this is crazy.
They really, I'm really who I am. I'm really an author. I'm really a self-love advocate. And so I'm really a writer. And so I'm super proud of self, and I'm appreciative of just everybody who supports. And, whether they purchase a book, engage in some content, share, you can put on a friend, whatever the case it may be. Like, I don't even have the words. Like, I just be so happy.
You're a huge inspiration.
Thank you.
And I just want to thank you because I know y'all are busy people, busy woman, busy team, and just for you guys to take 2 minutes out of your day to sit with us is amazing. And I myself and the team, Raw, everybody is eternally grateful, and we can't wait to have you back.
Thank you. I can't wait to come back. Thank you.